Strangeloop. I like my loops fruity. Ooh, and in chocolate milk. Next on OUR SINCLAIR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of OUR SINCLAIR.
Yes.
It's when two dopey, goofy sort of Americans take a look at the games of the ZX Spectrum. That's what we're doing.
Sort of Americans. We might sort of take a look. We're 100% American.
Well, listen, I'm claiming it less every day. I'm your good buddy, Amigo, Aaron, joined by the patriotic, the BRENT. We're going to get into a strange game today. Strange game.
No,
but
Strangeloop.
As we jump off the side of the mountain here with our parachutes.
Oh no! Shut that thing off long ago.
With your anvil, like Wile E. Coyote. We're going to take a brief moment for some important house cleaning that we've been working on behind the scenes. We want to get this in straight away because if we don't, we'll forget. Brent, give them the scoop.
If you guys have watched the show for a while, and if you're a newcomer, welcome. We have had 4 Patreons for the 4 Sunday shows. And that is the Atari ST show, the Coco show, ARG Presents, and of course, OUR SINCLAIR. 4 separate Patreons because as the shows got released, a new Patreon was put into place to kind of fund that show. Well, now we're established, right? So we are actually taking down all those Patreons over the next 3 to 6 months. Timeline is probably going to be a little more on the accelerated side. And we are introducing the Retro Rotation. And that is a Patreon that it's all-encompassing. It has all those shows built in. And if you're just a supporter of one show, Aaron, you can go onto the Retro Rotation and just support the show that you want to support. If it's just OUR SINCLAIR, you can do that. If you just like what we're doing here on Sundays, there's an all-encompassing tier, and that all-encompassing tier gets you into the game selection committees. And if you just can't get enough of us for some reason, we also have one VIP tier that we're calling the Golden Token, or I call it that. You had no say in it at all. But this is really, it's where John had to step away from the show, and he is tied to all those accounts, not only through emails and things like that we can't transfer over, but also for tax purposes and things like that, bank accounts and whatnot. We're taking him out of that so he doesn't have to be bothered with that, keeping up with that kind of stuff, because that's extra hassle. This puts everything into one place. And not saying we're ever going to do this, but if we do expand the Retro Rotation, put in a new show, now we can just plug it into the Patreon, no fuss, no muss. Now, there is an audio component to this, Aaron, and I think you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, normally we wouldn't lead a show talking about Patreon stuff, but we want to tell people this now so they can transfer their Patreons over if they want. In case you don't know, Anchor, who we used to distribute our show, was bought by Spotify. We had separate channels for all of our shows, and then we had one all-encompassing channel that had all of our content from the Amigos Retrogaming channel. So what's happening is, due to the way Spotify operates, we're having to close down our separate channels. So we're going to, if you were getting OUR SINCLAIR through the OUR SINCLAIR channel, that channel is going to be going away after this episode. And we're going to be distributing all of our shows via the Amigos Retro Gaming Network channel. You can just go to your favorite podcast provider and search. It's there. It has all the shows from our channel. You can just pick the ones you want to listen to, and the ones you don't, just don't download. It's as simple as that. No big deal. We want to get this stuff in early so we can get it out before we forget. But 2 important things to remember. One, our current Patreon is going away and will be, so if you're interested in continuing your support, you can go to a Patreon and look up the Retro Rotation and sign back up there. And there are various categories to guide what you want. And again, the individual channel for OUR SINCLAIR is going away, and we're going to be distributing that through the Amigos Retro Gaming Network channel.
And to put any fears to rest, we're not leaving the Amigos Retro Gaming. It's nothing like that. This is just the Patreon thing.
Yeah, I'm an Amigo.
Yeah, I know.
So no, we're not leaving anything. This is some housekeeping baloney.
We've had some fear that people think that we're skipping ship, and nothing to do with that. We should also mention
this is nothing to do with the Amigos Patreon. This is strictly for the 4 shows that me and Brent do.
Correct.
So, with all that out of the way, let's get to the matter at hand, which is a little ZX this week. Now, this week, when this one came up as the game, Strangeloop, I've never heard of this one.
I hadn't either.
And so I was like, well, what's the scoop on this? I started doing a lot of research. I was surprised. A lot of the ZX games we play some fairly obscure stuff. Have a lot of playthroughs and reviews and stuff.
Sure.
Especially games that were distributed on multiple machines, like often the ZX and the C64 and the Amstrad will all have the same game. This is no exception, by the way. But this thing has not very much action. I was surprised. I mean, if you consider all the different platforms, I didn't see a lot of people talking about this on YouTube. Just a few playthroughs, and really no one's even giving it a proper review as well.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I saw plenty.
What did you see? I looked at every single one.
This isn't as out there as like, Jet Set Willie or something.
What? But that's one of the most popular games.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's not that kind of coverage, but I saw a bit.
Well,
and with good reason.
I don't agree with you. All right, I think you're full of crap. And I didn't see a lot. I saw very little compared to most games. So with all that said, we're going to be throwing our hat into the ring. I think you're goofy too, by the way.
Well, duh.
So there you go. So we are going to be talking about Strangeloop. Strangeloop, published by Virgin in.
Did you know they had a game thing back in '84 for the Spectrum?
Yeah, they did tons of games. You haven't been in. See, you are learning, young Padawan.
I am.
The rest of us know this because that Virgin, and I didn't even bother listing all the games they post. They post a zillion games for like a bunch of the classic machines, including the Amiga and a bunch of others.
I was just surprised that this was attached to them.
Why?
I thought I knew most of the Virgin titles out there.
There's no way you can know them. There's like a million.
I'm starting to learn that.
So this was released in '84 and programmed by a fellow named Charles Goodwin. So I had a look at Charles Goodwin. This guy's been around the block.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Just to name off some of the stuff he's been responsible for, he was programmer. He programmed on not just the ZX, but on the C64, the Amstrad. I've even got listings in here for him for DOS and Linux stuff.
Wow.
So he's done it all.
He grew up, man.
When I look over the list of the stuff he's done that you may have heard of, Warlock for the Amstrad comes to mind. Prehistoric, which we played a version of that. He did the Amstrad version of that. He did a game called the Gene Machine. Gene spelled Gene for DOS. He worked on that. And he's done a little bit of behind-the-scenes work in terms of bug testing and stuff like that. So he's worked all over the place. He's got about 12 credits to his name. So this guy, when he did Strangeloop, it wasn't like his first rodeo. He did a bunch of stuff. By the way, he also He also apparently worked on C64 version. So Charles Goodwin. This thing again came out on multiple machines. You've got the Spectrum, the C64, the Amstrad, and the MSX got a version of this as well. When the MSX was getting a lot of action. This retailed in '84 for £5.95 piece.
Yeah.
Not a budget title.
But not full price either.
No, I don't think £6 is full price.
It's that middle road.
Yeah. This game, in terms of your control options, it has built-in controls, but you can, thankfully, adjust them. It does have a nice in-game utility to change your keys. Now,
this did not have joystick support.
No, and there's a reason for that. Well, multiple reasons. You needed a lot of keys.
Well, the thing is if you go back and read old magazine reviews, it says that this has joystick support,
Yeah,
but it doesn't.
well, you can tell because I think the main reason that they didn't support joysticks on it was because you needed to have two fire buttons just to do proper shooting.
Well, plus all the inventory
Yeah, but I'm
stuff.
saying you could switch over to that from a joystick. I mean, if you had a 2-button stick, you could have made it work, but no one had one, so there you go. One thing this did have, and if you're reading the magazine reviews from back in the day, this was very widely heralded as being great. Is that this game had in-game save support? You could save your game, and a game like this one, you would want to save your game because it's a massive, massive game. It runs over hundreds of screens, the Brent. So, what is this game? Well, I've been asking myself that question all week, the Brent. According to the documentation, this is a game where, and it's funny. I read the docs, and I was surprised there wasn't like there was a backstory, but it wasn't like novella style. You know what I mean? It was I was kind of bummed out by that. Essentially, your job is to go to this planet that was basically full of robots that did manufacturing and stuff.
Yeah,
But aliens reprogrammed them
yeah.
to be volatile, and evil. And you had no one's been on this place. No one's been here for hundreds of years until you show back up, and your job is to go in here and basically fix everything, and then try to eliminate the alien issue. I will say the aliens don't play a big active role in the game
They
as
really
on
don't.
screen
Yeah.
at all until really the very, very end. If you went through and watched the entirety of the game, then you would see them, which good luck beating the game. The game has 240 different screens, and they're laid out in a grid pattern. It's funny, someone I saw had taken all the different screens and they had printed them in this huge single
Map.
picture, and it was immense. Like it would cover this whole wall here.
Yeah.
It was so huge, 240 screens. Each of these screens will provide you theoretically some sort of a opponent or puzzle or game element. Well, I'm just telling you, that's what they say. This game does have another interesting addition, which is a on-screen map.
Yeah.
Edge.
No, it does a good job.
No, well, I mean, it does. It does give you 1, 2, 3, about what 15 squares,
15 rooms around you.
Yeah. But I mean, it does not provide you. The game doesn't tell you which way to go.
Well, the compass points you to the most important room.
No, it points you to the control room.
Right, that's the most important room. But the kind of the thing here is you can't just go to that room and win. There's a lot of puzzles you have to figure out before.
So this is one of those games where the top 2/3 of the screen is the game per se, and then the bottom third is like a status area. And for once, I will say they used every bit of that to effect. So your guy is in a spacesuit and has a jetpack and a laser gun. The bad guys in this, when they hit you, they cause your spacesuit to get leaks.
Tears.
And so you also have a list of how many leaks your suit has and how many patches you've got. So, because presumably this is a self-patching suit, as long as you've got patches in the inventory, and you can have up to 99 patches. Any patches you get to 99, they just go away. So you don't want to although getting 99 is no easy task. You also have an area down there for your laser gun. The laser gun also has charges. The laser gun fires straight and diagonally up. And so you will be able to shoot, which is an unusual choice.
Yeah.
For a game. I don't know if I've seen one quite like that. You've also got an area called pockets, which is your inventory. This is all the things you pick up. You'll pick up all sorts of odd stuff in this thing. Everything from eye protection to money to and you also pick up things that don't show up in that area, like fuel for your little scooter,
your hovercraft,
stuff like that. Along the top of the bottom third of the screen is a thing that says oxygen supply. Of course, you also have oxygen because you're in a spacesuit. and you'll have to replenish that occasion. There's a couple of places you can get that.
And that's not something that constantly falls. It only falls when you have holes in your spacesuit, which I thought that was a really neat touch.
I will say I kind of like the spacesuit thing. You're right, and also it's not irritating. Like you're not going to go through the game and get instantly mashed right away. But I mean, you can. But well, I mean, I'm just saying. I guess you could. But this is an interesting way to do it. And the thing is, it's like a health bar that it goes below 0 basically, so it's not too bad. There's also a spot aside from underneath the map area that has the time down there. How long you been playing? Pretty good setup here. I don't have any problem with the way they've got the screen stuff. What do you think of the? What do you think the way they did this? Are you cool with it?
Just the screen? Yeah. No, I think it was well done.
Yeah.
It takes up a lot of screen real estate, but it gives you so much information that had to go somewhere that I think this is okay. I think the way they did it is actually good.
You can hear small asteroids are hitting the building right now. To talk about this in line. Now, of course, you are in a spacesuit with a jetpack. So you could think to yourself, hey, this is sort of like a jetpack game. It's not. I mean, you are an asteroid, a jetpack, but similarities to the actual jetpack are pretty much none.
Well, you don't actually have a jetpack.
Well,
you can jump and it's sort of moon gravity, but you can't fly unless you have your scooter.
Well, you can maneuver around. I mean, to me, I pretty much just assumed he had some sort of. I mean, it doesn't outwardly show anything.
No, the controls. So I'm going to break down some of the game here, Aaron.
Yeah, get in there.
When you start this game, you land on the planet, and you are just a guy walking around.
You teleport down. You get to pick where you start,
and you can jump, and you get a fair amount of movement in the air, and you can jump for fair distances, but your actual movement is restricted to you are going to be on the ground, right? You can't just fly around like crazy until you get your scooter, and you get your scooter pretty early in the game. I mean, it's maybe 3 or 4 screens in if you know where you're going to unlock the scooter. And the scooter gives you full mobility. You can go up, down, left, right to the full extent of the screen and fly around. And that uses your fuel, but it's not punishing. It gives you plenty of fuel to fly around and experience the game.
Yeah.
But while you're on your scooter, you do have some limitations, and the game gives you the ability to get off of that scooter because there are some elements of the game that you have to get off of the scooter for. But
not that many.
For 85% of the game, you are going to be on this little scooter flying around, which means you have to watch out for fuel. The way the patch system works is really clever because you start each man, and you get 8 men. You start each man with 20 patches. Now, the enemies do generate you, which means if you are on top of an enemy for any amount of time, they're just going to erase all that.
Right.
It's going to go down really fast.
There's no sort of like knockback or anything.
No, you just eat it. So 20 patches, I feel, is a good amount of starting patches. You can pick up more, and there is a puzzle later in the game where you get 99 patches if you complete the puzzle. But for the most part, it's survivability, but you still want to avoid being hit by things. Once you lose all those patches and your oxygen starts draining down, it drains equal to as many holes as you have that you can't fit with patches. So if you only have 1 hole but no patches left, you've got a long amount of time to pick up more patches. Now, if you have 20 holes, you're going to die fairly quickly. I think this life system is fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It is incredibly detailed. I picked up on it right away. I didn't have any problem understanding what was going on.
That part I picked up on.
The next thing, the laser gun. Yes, you have charges. Yes, it is slightly restricting because you can't just go in guns a-blazing every single room. Some rooms you're going to want to try to dodge and maneuver through, but it's not so restricting that you feel like you can only shoot that one enemy that's really giving you problems. Cool thing about that, if you clear a screen of enemies, and that means every single enemy, even if it's up on the top part of the screen that isn't really, is a ledge above you and it can't get to you and you can't get to it, that's not good enough. If you clear a screen of all its enemies, those enemies will never respawn.
Yeah.
If you leave one, the screen will repopulate.
I did like that.
Perfect. I love that aspect of the game.
It's funny, early on, I would clear all the screens that I could, but after a while, you'll realize that the funny thing about this game is like when Brent said like at the beginning 20 patches is fine. Like this game isn't like most games that we play on these older machines where it's like instant death. Like you've got a lot of leeway. And the bad guys, what they call them, shop or something like that. They are the robots, whatever. They don't actually swarm you. They're not super hard to dodge generally.
They normally just the reflect around the room.
So
enemies.
you can kill them, but you don't necessarily have to. You can sort of like wander by.
So let's say you're in a particular situation and you do die. You lose all your patches, your oxygen runs out, game over. It doesn't just spawn you in the room before or right where you died. It says, okay, you died. Where would you like, in the screen that you died on, where would you like to teleport to come back?
Yeah.
And it lets you pick anywhere in the room, even if it was a part of the room that was inaccessible to you.
I think was a real good idea.
That is, it's really good, right? I like the concept because it can get you past things that you were having trouble with. But it's also, in my opinion, a little bad because it does let you negate some things that you can just say, well, screw it. I'll just take the death here. Who cares? I'm going to come back with 20 patches. I'm going to come back with full oxygen, full fuel, more ammo. Yeah. And this section of the game is really hard. I'm just going to bypass it.
Yeah, and you get like 8 guys like to start. Yeah. So you get plenty of guys.
So although I'm impressed that they could do that, I'm impressed that they had the wherewithal to set the game up like that. I don't know if I actually like that aspect. I can see where people would really like it.
I like it. I think it's very clever because if you can't get past this, although again, it makes it sound like this is a game where like traversing the levels is real tough. It's not usually very hard to get around. There's a couple places that can be tough, but for the most part, you can just go where you want.
So I'm praising the game really well. I'm going to keep doing it. The map section that you have is color coded, and it's kind of color coded in a weird way. Rooms that are red are usually special rooms where you have something to take care of or a puzzle to solve or whatnot. And the rest of the grid is just like a blue and black type grid pattern.
Yeah.
The rooms, you said there's like what 180 of them or something.
240.
Okay, there you go. 240 rooms.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with 240 rooms.
All right.
It's not the maze aspect, although that can be a problem. Most rooms either have multiple ways in or out. I never felt like this was mazy, right?
Oh, okay.
I didn't. I didn't think. I never thought
it wasn't like labyrinthy, but right. It was absolutely mazy.
Well, if there was a ledge that I wanted to get up on, but I was blocked, I never felt like I couldn't find my way up there. I always could go left 3 or 4 screens and then up, and then I was on the ledge I wanted to be on. So that's what I kind of mean. However, when you have 200 plus rooms, and there's only puzzles to be solved, now you might have to go somewhere else, get an item, and bring it back to this room. There's only like 10 rooms that are quote unquote important. You have a lot of filler. And this game has a lot of filler rooms where it is basically a corridor. And I'm talking like has no interesting mechanics at all. Some rooms have conveyor belts, some rooms have like smashers or grabbers, and all that is at least something.
Fire, acid, yeah.
But there are still well over 100 rooms that is just a corridor, and that leads to some boring screens. And I wish they would have toned it down, but I know why they didn't, and I'll get into that for a second. The controls on this game. This is your bread and butter, right? This is where you've got to nail it. They didn't nail it.
No.
And
it's not the worst, but it's not the best.
It's not the worst. You're right. But controlling your little man does not feel fluid. It doesn't feel fluid when you're out in just your spacesuit. It doesn't feel fluid when you're on your scooter. A lot of that you can get around because you don't have to be super 100% mega precise, but it feels bad. And that is just so unfortunate because this game has so much going for it. If they could have just tightened up those controls, and I think they just flew too close to the sun.
Well,
I think they had all these grand ambitions, and something was going to get sacrificed, and it was unfortunately the playability of the game.
Well, I mean, if I can jump in here,
absolutely.
This game is the classic example of somebody to put together a good mapping system ish, a good layout for all your various things, and but they forgot to make a game in this mix. This game reminds me of this is going way back. In some ways, this game is sort of, in a lot of ways, it's almost like feels like abstract. Some of the ways you travel, like I don't like the way the game portrays tunnels and doors. I don't like it. Like often you're on these like big pillars and like their exits and stuff, but it seems like abstract to me. It was like playing Fire World on the old 2600. Like you can travel off the screens, but you weren't sure how, you weren't sure why, and you weren't sure where you were, or where you'd been. I mean, it's just this real abstract, like loosey-goosey concept for a game.
And for those listening, not watching, the way that they signify door is you've got your upper screen, and your upper screen is surrounded by a frame. At 2 places on either side and 4 places in the middle on the up and downs, a section of that border can flash, and that signifies a door.
Like I don't have a problem with that, but it's just all the pillars of light that they're all over the place. That you just like what is that? What's happening? Why are they there? They don't look good.
I agree.
I like a properly put together board, like with like actual platforms that make sense. You can't just stick pillars in there, or what are they? Are they supposed to be water? Is it a waterfall?
No,
is it a stone pillar?
I think that's just graphical elements.
Well, I don't like it. It's weird looking.
I'm not saying I don't agree.
And when you're playing the game and you're going up and down these things, like when you go to the doors, it just makes the game feel loosey-goosey to me. And that was a huge problem. Secondly, and you've touched on this, like I played this game, and this is a game where you could sit down and play it, and you could actually play it. It's like on your first go. Like my very first go, I found a little scooter, I flew around, and I went on and on and on. Sometimes I'd kill the bad guys, and sometimes I wouldn't. And I kept going. I'm like, and of course, you've got no idea where you're going. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you have a map and you have a compass, but you don't know your purpose.
What you need is to memorize, and this is your classic. Soup in the chat said this looks like a very Spectrum game, and it is. This is a game where you basically blindly go through levels, because in the old days when they were playing this stuff, they had time to kill, and so the longer the stuff went on, the better it was for everybody. You know, this has a save feature, so it was okay to explore 240 rooms, try to figure out the handful of puzzles that are in there. So this is one of those areas where, for me, time wasn't kind to a game like this, because I don't want to blindly stagger through the levels.
And let me talk about that a little bit, Aaron. The reason why this game went with that approach is Virgin ran, the ads that Virgin ran said 2 things. It said, this isn't a game you play for hours or days or weeks. This is a game you play for months. Okay?
Yeah.
That was one of their major selling points. Selling point number 2 was they had a contest that if you were the first person to beat Strangeloop, you get $2,000. So it was.
I got something to say about that too.
What?
If you watch, and this is actually, and I wonder. I mean, I don't think that's why they did that, but it's a great way to get out of something. So when you beat this game, like I watched it to the end. I did not beat it, obviously, but
Right.
I did watch the ending of it. The screen, there's really no victory screen or anything, but at the very end it says it gives you a code.
Yeah.
And then it says call this phone number. And and then that's it. Game over.
Yeah.
There's no ending screen. There's no summarization of what happened.
There's no
nothing.
title screen.
Well, I mean, so how much is it? How much are you paying to make a game? If you're giving away 2 Gs, that's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. That's a sum of money.
Yeah.
But I mean, by the time you would pay for someone to do stuff like put a title screen, put an opening screen on there, you're probably actually saving some money at the end of the day with your team because you can just give away 2,000 bucks. You don't have to bother with that stuff. Not the worst idea. I saw it. We talked about it last night. I saw it in some advertising. But the thing is, beating this game, it would be no easy task. The funny thing is, if you watch somebody run through it, this is your typical game. If you know the path and what to do, you can get there quick.
It's more than just knowing the path.
Right.
Because it's not like this is a maze.
Well,
you have to go to the specific room that has something.
But I mean, it's not that hard.
No, it's impossible to know what you're supposed to do.
Well, I agree.
That's the problem. Because you have to get something from room A, take it to room B, and then interact in such a way.
That's why it's when you look at someone who like rolls through this real fast, you're like, but I mean, there's no way.
No, I completely disagree because when I watch a playthrough, and I felt this way when I was playing it too, was how does he know to do that? What am I supposed to do? That's bad. That's not a good thing. That's a bad thing.
Well, but my point is, when you see this thing, someone blows this game in 24 minutes.
No, it's like an hour.
No, I watched the guy blow through it in 24 minutes.
No, it wasn't 24 minutes. Go ahead.
And so I watched this guy blow through this thing. And if you're just like, oh, look at that, he crushed this game, and it was, like, you could play this game. They're right. You could sit and play this game for like 8 billion years and never get to the end.
And never figure out what you're supposed to do next.
And so, but this isn't like Zelda or something. This would be 80 billion years of boredom, struggling. Most of the levels, the bad guys just sort of float around until you kill them all. Also, it's something else. You can go through and kill every bad guy in this if you had the lasers,
which you
gun
don't.
out,
yeah.
And then. But then you're just wandering through areas that are basically empty. There's other stuff that'll kill you aside from just the floaties.
Yeah, pits and fire.
Also, if you're running into the computer on certain levels, that'll kill you. Stuff will kill you. But I mean, it's this game. What are we doing here? I've played games that were like adventure games that were like this on the Specky, and they were just adventure games. There wasn't really much of an action element. This one has what I would call the bare minimum of action to call it an action title.
I don't.
I'm right.
No, I don't agree with that. I think the action in the game is fine. I think that the puzzle elements, when you hide a puzzle, I think that's not the right way to make your game.
Well, it's exploratory. This was the style of the time.
I don't mind exploratory games, but because like. If you just go in with this, with the text on the screen, it says, hey, Commander, like, go to the control room.
Yeah.
So my first playthrough, I spent the entire time making it to the control room. I got to the control room, and then I died. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then I just started flying around looking for stuff. And I think I found one puzzle room, but had no idea what to do. Even if I knew the elements, I didn't know where the elements to take there was. It was strange. They also did a strange promotion with this where they released a demo of this game, and the demo was the upper screen like you would see it in the game, right?
Yeah.
But it was just a still shot. And the lower part of the screen, the inventory stuff was completely erased, and it just had a typewriter animation. And they typed out like, oh, this room, you've got to watch out for the conveyor belts, and there was 11 screens of that. Very slow typing.
Yeah.
The whole demo took like 15 minutes. No actual gameplay, no motion. And it was trying to build hype for the game because it was like, hey, look at all these rooms, look at all this stuff you can do.
Did it make you
Here
hype?
are the choices. It was not bad.
Yeah.
It was not bad. It was not the greatest.
Do you know where that was? Where did they
It
distribute
came
that?
with a magazine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a pretty good way to introduce this game without spoiling what the game is.
Yeah.
But I think a little guidance would have went a long way in this game.
You know, I mentioned that this came out on multiple machines. The lead machine was the ZX, but it came out in '85 for the C64 and the CPC, and '87 for the MSX. I had a look just for fun. I took a look at the C64 version and see how it looked. I think it stacked up quite well. In fact, I think that's without sitting down and playing it for a great length of time, it moves at a much better clip. It's got some sound occasionally, for example, like where you hear like a computer noise or something like that. I thought I like to the difference in the speed of the play was in the C64's favor was smoother, you know, but it wasn't like a radical difference
Right.
amongst the two. And I don't know how this is a game where you probably really wouldn't radically change it. I really like to check out the MSX sometime. That would be the one, because it was the last one released, and that would be the one where you could sort of flex your muscle a little bit on it. I don't like the MSX. I've got one in there, so this might be something I'll load up. But at the end of the day, for me, this is not a horrible game. It's not.
What kills me about this? How do you rate this game?
Well, I could rate it real easy because this falls into it was the style of the time game, and this is the European exploration style. This was a game that would last, and I will grant them points for putting in a save feature. Of course, nowadays no one cares. Just save state it, you're good to go. But in the old days,
no, it was a huge deal.
I played some of these epic ZX games, and when you have a save state, it would be brutal.
Oh, you could not. This game would not work without saves.
Oh, you could. Oh no, they released without saves because that wasn't something you had to have
and make it a good game.
Well, I didn't say that. But one thing we didn't even mention even picking up objects in this, because you just basically walk up to them and pick them up. They appear in your little inventory, and then like somewhere down the line, you may need, say, a flashlight, or you may need some money, or protective glasses or whatever. And then you also have the ability to scroll through your, and this is something else, you got to have the docks, because you don't just roll down and scroll through your inventory. You sort of have to hold down a certain button.
you got to play the game to get it.
This, and also another game where you have to, you're going to be only using the keyboard. So there's also, if that's a problem for you, then there's that. This had an interesting line of reviews, the Brent. Some people really thought this was great, and some people, no one hated it. Crash in October of '84 gave this an 86, pretty close to a Crash smash. They didn't quite get over the top. Sinclair user in November gave this a 90. They were very impressed. Some people heralded this thing. I read a couple of reviews talking about this as the big hit game for Christmas.
Yep.
But the funny thing is, I don't have any indication that this was a huge seller.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I didn't see anything about that either.
CBG in December of '84, they only gave this a 73%. And some of their complaints were a lot like ours. And then Personal CG gave this an 80. So your ballpark score on that's still you're still in the
high.
The B area of that. How did we get any action on Discord?
While you're pulling up Discord, I want to give my final thoughts on it.
Please go ahead. I'll do Discord.
This game has so much going positive for it that I cannot put it down. The map system, the health system, even the main concept of the game, even though it's sort of generic, it does enough to make it interesting. It's unfortunate that they couldn't push it over the line and have good controls and have better direction for the players. But I can't hate on this. And I know there are going to be people out there, Aaron, that this is their favorite game. This is the game that they remember.
Do you really think so?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
In '84, Aaron, this would have blown my little immature mind.
There were other games doing similar things.
I disagree.
What do you mean? I'm telling you, I've played games like this one.
This had so many concepts all shoved together that I give it props. Well, that's just my opinion.
I agree with you to a certain extent. What I wish this game had done is just been a little less chaotic with the on-screen
a little
action.
more playable. Yeah.
So we got a few reviews of the Brent. Let's start with our good buddy Jed Byrne. Strangeloop has many hidden depths, but I was struggling to find them. After wandering around for hours, things I didn't encounter, shooting things, I didn't encounter many problems to solve. Yes, I did find the jet cycle, which involves a nice little puzzle, which shows being bounced to destroy a robot. More like that would have been great. The reviews talk about giving objects to robots and putting coins in the Vendomatics, but I couldn't find any of that. It looks promising, and the reviews were good. Sinclair user predicted this to be one of the biggest selling games of Christmas. There you go. And gave it a Gilbert factor of 9. Crash reviewers described it as exciting, fun, and highly recommended, but an 86, it felt just sort of being a smash. Did I want to preserve, explore, and discover more? I was curious to know more, but the gameplay was just too clunky for me to keep playing. On release, Virgin offered a 2,000-pound robot for the first player to complete the game. Perhaps that would have motivated me to keep at it. Not me. So he's saying that. So do you remember the? I thought it was a cash.
I thought it was a cash prize, but it might have been a cash equivalent.
Robot better. That's a. Orc Meal chimed in as well. Strangeloop's backstory is enticing, and I would have loved to explore the game more, but it fails to provide a feeling of tight control over your movement. Too many times I found myself struggling to move this slightly disoriented cousin of Ultimate's Jetman in the direction I wanted to go. See, another guy who cited Jetman. That's what he reminded me of. I also found baddies hard to tell apart from the stuff you're supposed to pick up. And the manual does not help here. So you often just have to run into something to see if that was a good idea or not. He's not wrong. On the plus side, the compass and minimap are helpful to tell which direction to head. There is, however, one really great mechanism every flip screen platformer should adopt. When you lose a life, you get to place a little rectangle anywhere in the current screen to say where you'd like to reappear. This is fantastic. Not only can you avoid the dreaded infinite death loop known from Jet Set Willie after an unfortunate jump, but it also lets you cheat your way across rooms that you can't figure out in a more honest, astronaut-worthy way. If this game had managed to steal the tight movement and controllers from Jetpack, it would have been an Orc Meal's delight. As it is, it's just more of a funky mystery meatloaf that I quickly stopped chewing on. 6 out of 10, including 1 bonus point for letting me flex about this being the first game I reviewed on my brand spanking new Kickstarter 2 Next. Orc Meal, in fact, was one of the lucky boys. So listen, I feel like now, see, we've contributed to his happiness there. He's one of the lucky folks who got their new Next in the mail. And I do want to mention, I'm glad he brought that up, because we don't talk about that sort of thing too often. I haven't gotten to play with Mitsuyama's Next. Let me get it right this time. Those machines are outstanding. It's funny, I didn't order one because it's like, even at the time when they first came out, the mystery, I didn't even heard of it. But early on during the first Kickstarter, it wasn't like I was like, oh man, I got to have a Zest. We had a little one. I know the difference.
Yeah.
And now, 6 or so years later, it's such a pretty machine. And the price, I would say, is a manageable price. That if they were to do another round of these, I'd be sorely tempted to throw my hat in the ring just because it's such a quality machine. The guys, I mean, this is the way you do a machine like this. They had a lot of good planning. You get an actual designer, and you take your time. Now, would I want to wait 6 years to get this thing in the mail? I don't. But I mean, I will say congratulations for the people that did get these in the mail. And some of you may have be trying out your Next the first time. Maybe tuning in to the show for the first time. You haven't just gotten back into it. If you did, that's great. Thanks for tuning in, and drop us a note. Tell us how you're liking the new Kickstart Next.
Now, Aaron.
Yeah.
Next week.
Well, hold on 1 second
What?
before you jump. As usual, you jump the gun.
What?
Why doesn't anybody remember the ever popular? How much is this thing worth? This is why the people tune in.
No one cares.
Because they know. Let's see what these things can sell for.
No one cares.
I told the Brent, I know for a fact because the box on this thing's pretty wacky that I've got at least one of these. I may have several, and so I was hoping for big money, no whammies. But complete in the tape box, as it were, on the ZX. Get these all day long if you're ever in the glorious shopping grounds of the UK for $7 American or less. So these things are dirt cheap.
For you sure
dirt cheap, brother.
You sure drew that out.
Well,
So, Aaron, let's talk about next week.
Yeah, let's, because I'm not sure we're playing. Let me have a quick look.
Well, the next week, the 14th, will be an ARG Presents, where we will be looking at Star Wars-ish games. And if you're wondering where the wheel spin for that is, don't ask any questions.
We did spin the wheel.
Aaron,
I will say that.
Do you have an idea, an inkling, a little hint of what we can be getting on the next OUR SINCLAIR?
I do have an inkling here. As I check out, the votes have just been tallied, Brent. So, as you know, we have just completed what they call the adventure. We have a club, the Clive Club. We'd love you to join. These are our Patreon members that will pick the games for us because we're too dumb and too uneducated in the ways of the ZX. Of course, we just played Strangeloop, and that was our adventure game. Now it's time for another round here. These are ports, and the winner, a decisive winner here, Brent. It wasn't super decisive, just edging out Bubble Bobble. It was Ghouls and Ghosts.
Oh,
Ghouls
excellent.
and Ghosts.
I'm all for that.
So on the next OUR SINCLAIR, you will be hearing us speak on the ZX version of Ghouls and Ghosts, which I've never played, so I didn't know exist.
What?
The ZX version of Ghouls and Ghosts?
Oh, the ZX version. Okay. Dude, you blew my mind. You blew my mind.
Sorry about that.
Do you have anything to say to the people?
I do. I've got one solid thing to say, and it's rewind tape.
And press play. Have a good one.